Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Hayes. For my short rant today, Izyum has fallen. Is Potemkin next? And so I want to talk about, okay, we have these gains on the ground, but how are they playing out in the information wars and the Russian effort to maintain a facade of victory? So, key developments. Russians are fleeing, hurriedly fleeing is how ISW describes it, from Izyum. And Ukraine has penetrated 70 kilometers through Russian defenses and has captured 3,000 square kilometers, more territory than the Russians have taken since April, right? So they're flipping the script here. And hey, speaking of the script, what's going on with that? I could try to stay up with what town has been taken and, have they taken Izyum yet? The Russians are pulling out from it and they'll take it. It's minute by minute, if I tell you one thing, it'll be gone by tomorrow. Let's take a step back and look at how this is going to play out at the strategic level, right? So how is this going to play out in the information wars that have such an important bearing on this war? I mean, there's the material fight, but I think a lot of this is going to be decided at the international level in the sense of, do the Western states continue to support Ukraine? Do they pressure Ukraine to, make concessions? And also within Russia, how is Putin's position and how is the war going to affect him? And does he see it as an asset or liability? That sort of thing. So the Russian Ministry of Defense is trying to call this a regrouping. They're trying to tell, hey, we've been doing this for 3 days and we're pulling our forces back, etc. Their problem is that they're not doing a good job of it, and ISW has noted that they're letting conflicting reports come through. Even in state media, this is the thing, right? The Russians have clamped down on media, so pretty much within the country, average Russian only gets state media. The independent sources have been pushed out of operation. Now, a lot of people know this, and there are certainly things are leaking around, but within the state media itself, ISW noticed that they're getting, one announcer will say, the Ukrainians took this city. Another say, oh, no, they didn't, right? So, and then they'll have experts on, and the experts will give differing narratives down, doing various things. So in their view, ISW says the Russian information space is collapsing, right? That's interesting. Of course, the kind of buzzword rich right there, but they're having trouble keeping this up. And they suggest, ISW is like, their assessment is that the true nature of this invasion, of this operation, might be getting through to the public, that the Ministry of Defense is not able to adapt its narrative. It adopted this narrative. This is a flawless and easy operation, which can be so easily refuted, right? It doesn't leave room for Ukrainians to have a success. And in some ways, it's been kind of a rookie mistake, right? But it's the kind of thing that we can harken back to Vietnam, where, the U.S. Westmoreland was saying things were going really well. Then you had the Tet Offensive, right? The Tet Offensive was a wipe for the American and Vietnamese forces wiped out the Viet Cong largely as a result of that. It was really, in the end, a victory on the battlefield for Vietnam and the U.S., the Republic of Vietnam and the U.S., but I don't want to say propaganda, but in terms of the perceptions of the war, it was a strategic success. So the thing is, Ukrainians are having the success now, so the battlefield success, and they may be undercutting this Russian narrative that just did not have room for reverses, right? And so this is something that may have a very, it may or may not, right? They may shore up their facade in the future, but it also might be letting stuff get into the population, and they might, we might see some softening. Certainly, as Russia is trying to recruit people for this war, I mean, that may be complicated. And by the way, there's a lot of cracks in the information edifice with regard to those volunteer battalions, right? But at another level, it might weaken Putin's regime. It might change what he It might change his incentives. It might make him worse, right? Make him more desperate to have a victory. We'll have to see. Meanwhile, the mill bloggers, ISW is very big on talking about these guys, and they get a lot of their information from them. The military bloggers are, they're pro. They drank the Kool-Aid. They're all on board. They are, nationalists who want to take over all of Ukraine and denazify it. They are increasingly alienated and critical of the government, and they are beating the drum that, hey, you guys have, you guys got to do better at this. You betrayed the troops, and they're saying, and even they're noticing that the Ministry of Defense needs to have a better narrative. It can't focus on silencing. It needs to be more transparent. So we're getting criticism. The choir is in rebellion to a certain extent here. Okay, winter is coming, and how is this going to play out? Right? And I think, in there is a lot of discussion of operations being affected by the weather, that late October things go on. And so I'm kind of like, well, will military operations pause as they traditionally have done, or will they shift in nature, right? And so the Ukrainians you kind of have the sense that they're racking up victories before it might slow down. Or maybe they will use the weather to their advantage. You would certainly think it would help their partisan operations in the occupied areas, right? And they could hollow out the Russian, occupation. But so we're going to have to see how that, what goes on with that. But when it comes to the narrative, right? If there is a pause and there is a winter, you need a narrative that gets you through it. Or, certainly this is whether or not there's a pause. The narrative has to grow, right? It's so important for the Ukrainians to maintain their own morale. That's been a huge resource. They need to feel it's a winnable war. Their soldiers will not be motivated. Their population will not be motivated. Their allies, just as importantly, they need to think there's a good chance of them winning. And I think back to the Battle of Saratoga. The United States won that, and that's where Benjamin Franklin was a hero before he was Benedict Arnold. That battle brought the French in the war on our side. And oh, by the way, there was the Battle of Saratoga. There was also that winter of Valley Forge, right, where the American army, a different part of the army, trained under Washington and came out much better equipped. And so, are we going to get a Saratoga thing, right? Are these successes going to be like Saratoga so that the West keeps pouring money and aid in so we have a Valley Forge? I don't know. I'm making these analogies. They may not hold up. But Ukrainian successes, are they going to set the narrative? The other thing is, what else is going to happen? What fresh hell is going to occur? Is there going to be a nuclear plant disaster at Zaporizhia, right? I wouldn't bet against something happening bad there. And what will that do? Will that, as Putin appears to hope, say that, oh, you've got to end this conflict, it's dangerous, and create pressure on Zelensky to make concessions? Or will the Europeans look at it and go, no, you guys, the plant was fine until you all took it over, and you are dangerous, right? Is it going to be another brick in the wall, or another point of Russia being a danger, and so we need to support the Ukrainians, we need to defend against Russia. At the same time, there's this embargo. Russia is cutting off the gas. Winter is coming. Europeans are going to have a cold winter, right? We're seeing that. That's and how will that play out? Will that, as Putin hopes, create pressure on Western governments to have Zelensky make concessions? Or again, will there be backlash? Will it be kind of a reverse thing where people say, no, Russia, we're not going to go back to the situation as normal. This is bad, but we need to fight. Remember, democracies that are threatened tend to be tough. And we have this narrative out there that democracies are wimpy, that governments that have to respond to their population will not stay the course. And, look at Afghanistan, the United States withdrew. Yeah, after 20 years. That's my thing. I look at it. The United States was pissed after 9/11. There was a huge resolve to do something about it. And the United States stayed the course for 20 years. You might not like how it ended, but it kept on. And so I don't think democracies are as clay-footed as I think some people do. But we're going to have to see when it's cold, right? This is maybe a higher level of domestic pain that might be inflicted. And so it's a real question of how that's going to play out. So this is something we're watching. Right now it's going in the Ukrainian way, and we want to watch the battlefield successes. Those are interesting and valuable in and of themselves, but also the broader narrative may have more impact on the outcome in the end. Thank you for watching my short rant. I hope it was short and not too much of a rant. I'm Dr. Dave Hayes, and though I teach at Troy University, this video is my own work. Troy University has neither approved nor reviewed the content. So there. And if you want to learn more about Troy anyway, figure out who would hire a guy like this, you can always go to www.troy.edu. I also am going to have a little card popping up here that you can go see my bio and some information about where I teach, which will descend to shameless self-promotion. But I want more students. What can I say? And finally, the music you've been listening to is Tonight at 8 by Shane Ivers. So thank you for listening, and I hope you'll come back and enjoy another short rant.